Welcome! We all want Woodmore to be regarded as one of the premier communities in the state of Maryland. And to that end, Victoria Brooks, Bob Graves and I toured around the whole of Woodmore, taking a look at the status of the trees and the infrastructure in the community that the Homeowners Association is responsible for maintaining. This video is a summary of the results of that tour. Now this is a private video and you can only see it because you happen to know where it is. It's meant for the residents and homeowners of Woodmore and should not be passed on to anybody outside that community. So what did we do? First of all, we drove up and down every single road in Woodmore. We also walked through some common property, particularly that east of the main entrance. We took a video of the entire route and stopped to take photographs and make notes as we found different problems. So what were the key points that we concluded from this tour? Well, previous plans to upgrade or maintain the infrastructure here have been underfunded or not funded at all, which is why our infrastructure has been slipping for so many years. Obviously, we need better supervision of our grounds maintenance contractor because their thoroughness seems to be slipping in various ways. There seem to be a set of common problems throughout the community, and we'll go into those in a minute. And then there's unique problems in each district, and we'll go through district by district, pointing out some of those problems. So what were some of the problems we found throughout the community? It was hard to find a utility box in the community that was not unsightly or damaged in some sort of way. There were stunted, dead and dying trees throughout the community, and each one of those is a lesson of what to do and what not to do in the future when planting trees. There are lampposts that are unpainted, corroding and or enveloped by trees, thus making them not very useful as a source of light on our roads, and I would actually call that a safety issue as much as anything else. The grass maintenance in our community was inconsistent. Some places we found it cut perfectly well, but in other places it was a foot or 18 inches tall. There are many plantings that are overgrown and unexciting, and in my personal opinion, the biggest blight on our community are those front gate mailboxes which are now faded, bits are falling off, they've corroded and or tipping over. In fact, more than half of them are no longer vertical. The first area we looked at was this common area just to the east of the main gate, showed here in blue. Now I've never walked through there before and was quite stunned by the level of problems that remain there. This area had obviously been neglected for years. The first thing that struck me about this area was the number of dead trees, and here are just a few of the examples that we saw. A dying pine tree near the front entrance, a shrub that is no longer with us, another dying pine tree, a pine tree with most of the bottom branches dead. For some reason somebody had staked a dying tree, a whole row of dead trees way in the back of the area, a tree that has fallen over in a recent storm and will not be long with us. There were many other problems back there. First of all, the ground is very wet. There is no proper drainage. There are areas of defunct landscaping that now are just growing weeds. There are dead limbs hanging off of trees ready to fall on unsuspecting passers-by or on the fence, which therefore I consider a safety hazard. Large areas of unsightly dead grass. There's many pieces of debris back there that should have been cleared but has not been. It's just been hidden behind trees so you can't readily see them. And then there's the easy access because the fence ends. You can drive a car in there, which makes our gates and our gate guards completely superfluous. We then walked along Meadow Walk East, and the thing we noticed there was that the sidewalk on the south side of the road, marked here in red, has a problem. The trees have been planted too close to it and are causing the paving stones to be raised and cracked. Here are some examples along the way. This looks like a tripping hazard to me apart from being unsightly. But there's a lesson here as well that we shouldn't be growing trees right close to sidewalks and roads because it's just going to damage them in the long term. We also looked at Meadow Walk West. This is the area to the left of the main gate. And the things that we discovered there was, of course, the wooden lampposts have still not been removed. There was also lots of debris in the common areas along the side of the road that looked very unsightly. Next we looked at Pleasant Prospect. This is our single longest road and so had examples of all of the major common problems that we mentioned earlier. But it also had some specific problems. Let's start near the front gate. Either side of the road there are two plantings that have not been very well maintained and are looking not particularly exciting. Suggest that we could either just remove this and grass it over, which would probably look a lot better, or put some more interesting and colourful plants in those areas. Just before you get to the lake on Pleasant Prospect, there are two large waste areas that are at the moment just covered with weeds. we should either maintain those areas or at least plant some things in front of them such that you can't see them from the road. At 3 locations along a Pleasant Prospect, there are safety barriers. These barriers are very old, they're rusting, and in several places they've been damaged by collisions. Also, there are 2 places on Pleasant Prospect and 1 on Brookfield Landing where the golf cart paths cross our roads. There are no markings on the road to show that there is a crossing there, apart from a couple of small signs. We should probably get the County Council to put markings there to show that there is in fact a crossing at that point. Next we took a look at St Francis Way. Now one of the major features of this that we noticed is that there are no significant trees along the edge of the road, unlike the rest of Woodmore. This seems to detract from the beauty of the neighbourhood. There's also at the very end of the thing 5 mailboxes all ganged together, which looks pretty unsightly as they're all different heights. Some are falling over, some are not. They're all different colours as some have faded more than others. Next we looked at Brookfield Landing. On Brookfield Landing Road there is another set of rusting safety barriers that should be dealt with. There's a lot of areas here. It's not clear whose responsibility those areas are. Some of them seem to belong to the golf club, some of them seem to belong to the homeowners association, and some of them seem to belong to the homeowners. For example, in the top left hand corner here there are 2 trees that don't look in very good condition, and it's not clear whether they're on the homeowners property or on the homeowners association common ground. And when there's no clear responsibilities, nothing gets done. I think this points to a problem throughout the Woodmore community, that we don't know where our borders are. We don't know what particular part of our land it belongs to the homeowners association, or the surrounding neighbourhoods. I think we should do a very comprehensive survey of the entire Woodmore estate, identifying our exact boundaries and also coordinating with our neighbours that they understand those boundaries too. Otherwise nothing will ever get done. There's also an access road coming into the neighbourhood, and some people believe that this is where some of the vandals who've been taking stuff from cars are getting into the community. We should look at that, and if some sort of barrier is needed to keep people out, then we should certainly do that. There's also places where the pavement is splitting that needs to be dealt with. Next on our Magical Mystery Tour was Woodlake Road. We found one major issue here. It was the lighting in the area. The area is lit by these squat spherical bulbs. Some of them are overgrown like this, so don't produce very effective lighting of the roads. And secondly, a lot of them are old and discoloured and don't look very good. The problem with spherical bulbs like this, and many of the other lights in our community, is most of the light goes up, away or back into the houses behind, rather than down at the road. And that's a safety issue, so you don't see clearly people walking along the road, and you don't see deer in the road so easily, and that can cause accidents. We should take a look at the lighting in general in our community and try to get that improved. Next we went to Courtside, and the 2 major problems here are the 2 tennis courts after which the road is named. They are overgrown and looking very shabby. There seems to be some sort of dispute between the homeowners association and the golf club about this, and I wished it would be resolved. You can also see here in this left hand picture some of the other types of lampposts we have in our neighbourhood. Again, you can see most of the light is going to go up or sideways, not down at the road. Next is Spriggs Crest Road. That's one of our longest roads in the community. One of the things that's striking about Spriggs is that there are a lot of stunted trees along the length of the road. Here are 6 such trees in a row on that road. They've been there for a number of years, but they haven't thrived, and a lot of them are just branches with a few leaves on it and doesn't look very sightly. There's also this swampy area that has developed, and in fact geese have taken up residence there every now and then. There used to be a river here, then somebody came along to fix it, and now it's a swamp. So that does need to be dealt with. Spriggs Crest is actually famous for its potholes. It gets new potholes every year, and we leave them far too long for them to be fixed. Now Asherella has done a very good job this year of getting those potholes fixed, and hopefully we'll keep that going, but perhaps it's time to ask the County Council to resurface that road entirely to stop this ongoing issue. Then the other set of trees that aren't thriving very well are the set of holly trees along Spriggs Crest Road between us and the community to our east. These trees are yellowing, they don't seem to be growing or thriving, But my impression is that these trees are far too close together. There's 30 trees in this very short space. These are American hollies, by the way. I'm not sure what the purpose of these trees are, especially as there's another row of trees on the other side that the homeowner on the other side has planted. So we've got a barrier of trees protecting us from a barrier of trees. Imagine if we'd taken these 30 trees and planted them throughout our community. A lot of our tree problems would have been solved. Next we went to Hidden Pond. There are a set of crepe myrtles along the eastern side of this road just before you get to the triangle that have been planted a number of times. They died the first time, so guess what? When they put the same trees in the same spots, they died again. This seems to be a waste of money, and so we should take a look at what should be planted there, if anything, and then not keep wasting the Homeowners Association resources doing the same thing over and over again that is unsuccessful. And we're again in a who owns what situation with the lake. According to this plat map, which is the official Prince George's County plat maps, we do not have any say in what goes on in the lake. It's not in our boundaries, nor does Waterford on the right hand side here. Now we have been taking responsibility for that lake in part, and we should find out who really owns it and who is responsible for what. There's also these wooded areas around here that don't seem to be part of the Woodmore property according to this plat map. So who owns it, and who do we negotiate if there's problems? So this again means that we need to survey our boundaries very carefully and understand who owns what and who is responsible for what. This area also has unsightly wooden lampposts that need to be replaced. Last but not least is Longwater Drive. This seems to be ground zero for dead trees. Here's an example of a particularly large one that's been dead for a couple of years. There are also ones where the trees have been removed but the stumps have not. And this tree here is being ravaged by a fungal infection. There are also missing trees. If you drive around the community here, there's something like 18 trees missing that have been removed, and despite promises to replace them, have not yet been. We also have many corroding lampposts. They've not been painted, and so they are rusting in place. This one on the right is falling over. Now, if we didn't mention your community or mention some of the problems in it, please let us know, because we need as much information as soon as possible to make sure that we make the right decisions and the right priorities. But what are we going to do? I think this is going to have to require a phased approach. Phase 1 is to deal with the urgently needed problems, and that should start this year. For example, dead tree removal. Cut them down and remove the stumps. Alleviate dangerous situations. And address the most unsightly issues first. So that would start to happen this year. Also starting in this year and going on to the out years is start to remove the diseased and trees that are not flourishing. We need a maintenance plan, feeding of the trees, trimming and pruning of the trees, and prioritize the highest impact tasks as being the first things we do. Phase 3, 2020 and onwards, would be limited tree replacement. We're going to have to be very careful how we replace trees further away from the road so they don't start undermining the road and shading of the lampposts. Remove debris from the unsightly common areas and upgrading some of our landscaping. Now the knotty problem of how much all of this is going to cost. We need first of all to put a maintenance budget in position that ensures that things don't get any worse. Then we need a long-term catch-up plan with the budget to match it. Now that requires thinking in terms of what the current problems are and what our future vision is. That's going from the as-is situation to the should-be situation. And we need to, as a group, to decide what the should-be situation is going to be. Now, if you have a particular time scale in mind, like you want to be in the should-be situation in 5 years, that means your catch-up budget will be twice as much as it would be for doing it in 10 years. So we have to balance those two factors. How fast do we want to get back to where we were before, compared with how much money do we want to spend? What conclusions can we draw from all of this? Continual maintenance is a lot cheaper than replacement when things get broken. We need to act before things get any worse. We should no longer be underfunding or not funding these vital projects. Our homeowners expect results after paying high homeowners dues. We should be getting A1 service for the amount of money that we pay for our homeowners dues, and we've not been getting that for the last few years. It's time to change things. Why should we be satisfied with being just the premier gated community in Prince George's County? Why not become the premier community of all types in Prince George's County and perhaps even in the state of Maryland? Trying to achieve that would be exciting over the next few years, but it would require a commitment by the whole community to make it happen. So until next time, goodbye.